the term DEI is new, but the work is not new.
Welcome back to PCC8's Softening the Ground series. We're here in North Carolina. We've been having a great time talking to different people in North Carolina. Van Lathan, along with Matt Barnes, talking to Najauna White today. How are you doing, sister?
I am good. It's a good day. I'm doing well today.
We wanted to have a conversation that was wide-ranging, but that focused in on what it's like to be a mother, a woman in this particular political climate. You are a mother.
I am.
What are some of the fears, concerns, and thoughts that you have about raising a family, protecting a family in today's political climate?
I think I have a couple. I think what's interesting in today's climate is that I didn't think that I would be experiencing some of the reversal of policy, some of the reversal of fight and struggle that my mom or that my grandmother had to do prior to me. So I think as I raise my children, that's some of the fear that I have of are the things that I'm advocating for, that I'm fighting for, the things that are important to me, my community, and my family, is that going to go away when they are my age? And I think it's tough, but as a part of that, you know, my husband and I were also trying to figure out how do we set up ourselves and our kids to understand how to like deal with that? How do they navigate through? Sometimes it's not with grace, but that's a fear that I think about often in this climate.
I think too, I think a part of the conversation we had yesterday, Van, was, you know, particularly as parents, what we're fighting for now, we may not reap the benefits from.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And why some people are so adamant about it is because we do have children. And we want it to be, as our parents and our grandparents want it to be better for us. Obviously, we want it to be better for our children, but still at the same time, you think about our grandparents and our parents and what they went through, and 30, 40 years later, we're going through the same
thing.
shit.
Yeah.
It's just it's different names now and different ways of, you know, disguising what they're trying to get across. So it's crazy in that aspect. Can you talk to us about the field of work you're in?
Yeah, so I work at a full-service creative marketing agency that mainly services the hospitality and travel and tourism industry. I have the privilege of being on our DEI team. And so what I like to do and what we do on our team is we look at how attractions or states or destinations attract visitor experience and economic impact through a lens of inclusivity. And so, you know, for example, if you're in LA and you are looking at a brand and the storytelling, you're developing a campaign, what does the talent look like in that campaign? So who do you have on set? What are they doing? What are they talking about? If you're deciding that you're going to do a campaign on luxury living in LA, are all the people representing that campaign white? Can other people not experience luxury?
Right.
So I get to challenge them on that. If you're looking at a campaign for beach and you want to have beach travel, is everybody who's traveling at that beach or experiencing it able-bodied, right? So can I not be there if I am in a wheelchair or if I have different abilities? And so I really appreciate that work because the DEI space is the first time that I realized that I don't really have to code switch. And so I don't have to argue with you if you don't want to do this work. But what I can tell you is that DEI makes sense for your business. I can pull up, look up the people that are traveling to LA for the last 5 years. I can show you their spending habits. I can show you the economic impact. I can show you their hotel stays or how they are being entertained. So because of that reason, DEI makes sense. And so I love the fact that we get to be strategic in that way, but we're also telling a story to travelers through brand. And I think this is kind of like behind the scenes where people don't get to see that. So they don't know that, you know, an ad came on TV that's giving them an experience. And, you know, I think as a Black woman, I'm always an advocate for like, okay, Target, y'all got a Black family in there, you know, that's doing something different. That's a lot of the work that we do. So I love that.
DEI is a hot word right now. And off camera, you and I were talking about some stuff and events where you were, you know, supposed to go to and they wanted to remove that word from your title. Can you explain what, you know, how that makes you feel and why do you feel it is such a hot word right now?
Yeah, so we say this a lot on my team and to our clients, but we say, you want to focus on the words or you want to focus on the work? And the term DEI is new, but the work is not new.
Right.
And so as long as there are different types of people and different dynamics, there's always going to be elements of DEI. But what happens is, you know, they have a phrase that they've given to it now. Every year or so, they add a new acronym, they add a new letter to it. People get excited.
Yeah.
But because they're so focused on those 3 words, people are missing
Miss
the
the message.
impact.
You miss
Yeah,
the
they're
message.
missing the impact of the work.
Mm-hmm.
And so the example that he gave is, you know, I was supposed to speak at a conference and the state is going through legislation. And so we talked a little bit off camera, but right now there are about 85 bills in legislation or going through legislation about anti-DEI. And that's been happening for the last year or so. Of those 85 pieces of legislation, 14 have went through and became laws in the states. And so when we are out and we're talking about this, if the city is nervous that they're going to go up against local legislation, they will reach back out and say, we want to talk to you, but you can't say DEI. You can't say. And so it's that whole thing, by call it by any other name. We have to talk about what we have to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about community work, if you're talking about engagement, if you're talking about impact, partnerships, whatever, in that metric, DEI is going to play a part, whether you want to believe it or not.
Or whether you call it that or
Yeah.
not.
And so it sucks because, you know, I tell people like, this shit is hard work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's tough being able to tell someone that you need to look at the work that you're doing differently because there are different types of people here.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if we all look the same, if we're the same. There are going to be different types of learners. There are going to be different types of ways that people consume information. There are different types of travelers. But it sucks because you can be ready to have a conversation that creates some impact, and then someone will come in and say, you can't do that because of woke policy or, you know, whatever the word is.
I'm interested in this. Every time there's a rhetorical battle, it seems like the good guys lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about a rhetorical battle over a word. If the word is woke, woke gets captured.
Yeah.
If the word is CRT, CRT gets captured.
Yep.
If it's defund, defund gets captured.
Yeah.
How important is it to win the rhetorical battle over the term DEI? Like, is it worth the fight to preserve the term and desensitize it, or not desensitize it, destigmatize it is what I'm looking for? Or is it, for someone who does the work, would you rather people just punt on the actual term DEI and let you do the work in the realm, in the spirit of DEI?
So this is actually a topic that we're talking about in our industry quite a bit, a lot on like the board level, association level. So it's tough. I have 2 opinions. I think it depends on where you're using your platform to talk about DEI. So in the social aspect and using the social climate, you can say a lot of things. And sometimes it is those key words that will get you the viewership, the clickbait. So in that aspect, if people want to lean into that, they have to focus on the DEI because that's going to get them in the feed. That's going to get them in the loop. Mm-hmm. The problem that we're having is that DEI is not just a country thing. It's global. And by global terms, they call it place things in different places. So a person that I work with often, she's based in the UK. They focus on like equitable inclusion, or they focus on social inclusion. And there are different elements that come into play. So for me, I think it depends on where they want this to grow. So we can keep, again, focusing on the words, but what is that? Where is that going to go? Where is that going to get us? So do we want to move past that and figure out, again, what is that impact? And I keep saying that because I think people think that DEI is the impact, and that's not. DEI is just a strategy and it's an outcome. You know, you have people that are diverse, you include them, and if they are included and they are contributing, equity is a factor of that. So that's just a process. That's just a strategy. That has nothing to do with what happens. So after you put those people in the room, you include them and you make it equity, what are they doing to produce something? So I think that I'm in the middle on it, honestly. I think that I have to like give it a little bit more time. I think, again, as these things come through legislation and more laws are passed, there will be, I think, an industry shift. Part of this is because I think a lot of people started doing this work in 2020 and was already too many years too late to do it. And when they hopped on the work, DEI was the work that they hopped on. So you saw a lot of organizations hire chief diversity officers, diversity team members. They they could have called it anything else, but because they hopped on that in 2020, and then here we are 4 years later, they're trying to switch up that narrative a little bit. So I'm really in the middle on it. Yeah.
We got an opportunity to talk to your husband yesterday around importance of family, protecting, and all that. As a mother of 3, what does protector mean to you?
Ooh, I think my definition has evolved over time. So we had our first child in middle of COVID, middle of 2020. So it was health crisis and racial crisis and uprisings and financial crisis. And it was such a scary time. So protector for me during that time was very much physical. I'm like, keep this baby in my belly. I wanted to go to protest. He's like, you ain't going nowhere. You got to stay in this house. And right before we were pregnant with my daughter, we experienced a loss. So we were very much like, we have to be protective of our physical aspect, but also of our mental capacity. Like, I can't have you stressed out. I can't have you do those things. Over time, it's evolved. So now we have a set of twins. There's 3 of them. And I genuinely just want to protect their presence and their peace to be children. And I think oftentimes, especially what happens is with Black children, is there is a societal image of them. They expect our children to be tougher, more aggressive. They're stronger. You know, my daughter's 4, and if she says something, you know, that is mature, people are quick to say, she's grown. I just want to protect her being a kid. You know, my boys are out. If they're playing, he's so rough. He's this. He's just a little kid. He's just playing. So I think there still is that physical element, but now I just want to protect their presence. And I just want to protect them being children in this space and let me and my husband do the other work. Yeah.
I always wondered this, like, I don't have kids of my own, but I've always wondered about the plight or the experience of being a Black parent and how you guys approach it now. When I was a kid, my father decided very early on to tell me everything that could possibly hurt me. It just never really mattered.
Yeah.
Like, he was having conversations with me at 5 about nuclear war.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would like to watch the Flintstones if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
And we always talk about how we tell Black children, how we explain to them the world. Do we overburden them with who they are and what they are or where they are? Or are we doing them a disservice if we don't give them some explanation as to what it means to be Black in this set of circumstances? I know your kids are really young.
Yeah.
But I just want to know what you think about that overall.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And I think that you have to really figure out, and just like you brought up your experience with your dad, where was that pivotal moment for you? And so did you have that pivotal moment at 5? If your dad never told you these things, would you have learned that somewhere else? And I think that's a conversation that we have, because right now our kids don't know color, you know, they don't know race, you know, they know as far as, you know, if we talk to my daughter, she's like, she's brown, her friend is peach. That's where she knows, that's where her element goes. But other than that, there's not anything else. And so I grew up very similarly. I'm from Boston. I grew up in the hood in Boston, and my mom exposed me to so much in of what's going on in the world, but even the struggle that we were in. So it was like, we don't have hot water, so you got to put the water on the stove, you got to heat it up, you got to put it in the bath, type of thing. And I think that matured me before, you know, I was ready for it. So I think that we have a healthy balance of, if there are things that are going on in the world or that are happening and it has an impact on us, we're going to have those conversations because we want you to understand what that looks like. Again, back to that whole idea of like navigating through this. But some of this stuff you don't need to talk about. And I think that's the interesting part about it, because these children eventually become teens, then they eventually become adults. And, you know, we all have that, you know, if you watch the Boondocks, that Uncle Ruckus, right? And so it's like, do you want to have this kid who is polarized because of things that you taught them? Or do you want them to have their own lived experience? And then you teach them through that and what that looks like.
I've had interesting dynamics with both sets of with the twins.
Your boys are getting older.
Yeah, with the twins, with the George Floyd stuff.
Yeah.
Dad, why'd they kill him? You know what I mean? And they were, so that was 20. They were 10 or 11.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I couldn't let the anger tell them why. I had to tell them, sometimes because of the color of your skin, you're going to be, judged unfairly. You're going to be disliked, and you could not do anything wrong. You know what I mean? So you really have to take each situation by each situation, because again, you don't want to throw too much of this cold world at them yet, because hopefully some parts of it will change. And then on the flip side, our 5-year-old, put him in like one of the best schools in our city in Encino. And he comes home one day and says, I want to be white. I want to be white, because all of his classmates, majority of his classmates are white. So we're just like, shit. You know what I mean? Like, obviously we want to have them in the best schools and the best situations. And again, not ashamed of how hard I worked to get us where we're at. But, in his little pre-K school, everyone was white. So, my fiance and I talked about just like, he's seeing it already. Although he doesn't necessarily understand it. He's like, I want to be white. My friends are white. The best color is white. And we had to sit him down at 5 years old. Like, no, your color is beautiful.
Yes.
You are beautiful.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Your friends can be white and they can be beautiful too, but you still have to love the color you are. But again, it's that simple, because when they're young, they don't grasp the whole dynamic of one day that can be divisive, wanting to be a different color or being a different color and not being in a room full of other people. So I think you do, as a parent, you take it situation by situation. Me personally, I faced a ton of racism growing up.
Yeah.
My high school was almost burned down by the KKK.
It's like legendary.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, I speak out against all types of injustice, but particularly racial injustice, because it is so much bullshit and it's been going on for so long. And to me, I feel like, unfortunately, just as love is taught, hate is taught. And
Absolutely.
I think as long
100%.
as there's people on this earth, there's always going to be hate. So it's just like, you kind of want to spoon feed your kids as you see it necessary, but you don't want to overwhelm them. Like I said, I could have let the frustration of what really happened to George Floyd pour into the twins at 10 or 11 years old, and fuck cops, hate cops, they're full of, but I couldn't. You know what I mean? Because I want them to still have an understanding and a respect, because at one day they're going to come across these situations. We're going to have to deal with them.
Yeah, for sure.
Quick question for you. Do you feel like, because of what your dad taught you early, do you feel like that shaped who you are now? And I know you told a story a little bit yesterday too about the dynamics of going into the gifted program. But you think if he hadn't told you that, would you be a different Van?
It was interesting with him, because there was something, he was like, for me, like, you had the super hippie liberal mom and the cowboy father, right? And so those two things were clashing. Like, if my father got into a dispute, he would just pull out his gun and just be like, what we gonna do?
So we getting active.
Like, what we gonna do?
Yeah.
And then to be like, yo, sir, I told you that you have to put this back on the shelf.
It could be something that simple.
This is at the Piggly Wiggly. So intuitively, I knew that that's probably not a good form of conflict resolution.
Yeah.
But there were other things about him that he said that just were ridiculously true.
Yeah.
Like, he would say something, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but he would say, if a white man sees one shred of weakness in you, you're his nigger.
Yep.
He'd be like, if he sees one shred of weakness, he was like, when you're around your homies, talk to them and all that, but he was just like, we're not from a place here in South Louisiana where you can show one shred of weakness.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not the way that it should be. But in my life, that example was just like, I'd rather people see the strength in me and then know that there's something inside than see the weakness in me and have to pull out the strength. And for a long time, just having a male role model, I think I looked at the world differently than a lot of my friends did.
Yeah.
Because what I came back to, and this is why the conversation we had yesterday with your husband is very important, I just knew that there was somebody willing to go to bat for me.
Yeah.
Like, I just knew that, like, when it happened out in the world, I could come back and talk to somebody, and that person would go out and make it right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now he might not do the right
Even
thing
if
to
they
make
had to
it
do
right.
wrong by making it right.
Yeah, like he might not.
Mhm.
But somebody would make it right, and honestly, that gave me self-esteem.
hmm
Like, oh, it's worth it. Like,
I can do this.
yeah, I can do this. So, but I always wonder now with the dynamics of society and looking at it, particularly like we talked about fathers yesterday, about mothers. Just it seems so complicated. Like dealing with kids now things seem so much more complex
Yeah.
than they were when
There's a
we
lot
were
more
coming
shit
up.
going on.
A
Yeah.
lot more stuff going on.
Yeah.
Access. Our kids have more access to stuff too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I was talking to my husband earlier and was saying that, you know, our oldest is a girl and then we have twin boys. And so the son, a little bit about what you were saying is that, you know, you have this strength, but we're also taught as Black children, you got to be faster, stronger, smarter,
of
all of
course.
this just to compete at the same level.
Mhm.
And so having a little girl, you know, every day my kids say affirmations when we wake up
Oh,
and
that's
at night.
amazing.
And, you know, it's like, you're intelligent, you're beautiful, you're strong, you're brave, you're kind, you're loved, you're protected. Like we go through all of these things. And so when she is going through something and she's sad, you know, especially as she's navigating sports and doing all these things, we're like, hold on, you're brave. It's okay to have feelings, but you're strong, right? You can listen, like you can do all of these things. I think the tough part is sometimes, and being a parent today, is making sure that you're not falling back on the things that brought you trauma as a child.
Mm.
And that can be in anything.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I think thinking about my early postpartum journey, especially after I had the twins, when my husband would go to work and I was in the house, and sometimes with all three of them, I am at capacity. I'm overstimulated. I'm doing all the things, just everything. And I would be like, damn, it's loud in here. Like, or just please, like, give mommy a
need a break.
second, right? And then I would say, mommy is so sorry. Mommy just needs a second. You know, sometimes when it's like a lot of noise, mommy just needs a second. And she's like, it's okay, mommy. I didn't get that necessarily as a kid. I got the blow up and like, you
You
hungry?
better shut your ass
Yeah,
up.
you depress them dishes, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to do that. Like that's what
Why
I
don't you
got.
get your ass in there
Yeah,
and
that's what I
Nintendo
got.
that room?
Nintendo that room.
Yeah.
Or you sad, but you want some spaghetti?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I got.
Mhm.
And so I think that's why parenting is different now, because I'm recognizing that even though I did have that in the mom, my mom is amazing. My mom was go to bat for me too. She's that. So it's like, if they say I'm gonna call your mom, call her up here. Who y'all think she gonna
side
come
with
after?
you,
Yeah, y'all
She
gonna
may
be
yell
going.
at me after, but
Yeah,
in front of you.
yeah, it's gonna be you and my mama
Yeah,
going at it.
yeah.
So I think that I am taking the strength of my mother and the things that she taught me and the work ethic of that, but I'm also trying to figure out as a mom what that looks like for my children. Also, I come from a family of a bunch of single moms, and so me having a husband that is the head of our household that we rely on is different for them.
Yeah.
So when they come to my house and I'm like, let me ask Garrett. They're like, why you got to ask him? Because that's my man. And I'm going to ask him. Right. Yeah. And he's their dad and that's my husband. So I think that is different as well of what this looks like. And we have those conversations together. So my daughter can't do something and mommy said, and then she go to daddy. We say the same thing.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever your mama said.
Right, team.
She come to me, she's like, daddy. I'm like, whatever daddy said. So I think that's why it's tough. And then to add to that is the access you said. We have more access to anything that we've ever had in life on our phone. But while the access have grown, the attention span has decreased.
Shorter.
Yeah. So
And communication skills aren't as strong.
The kids are scrolling on my phone. They go into the TV, they try and touch it. This ain't a touch screen, baby. You can't touch this TV. And so you also have to navigate that a little bit of how can you get them to focus? How can you get yourself to focus on something enough as a parent, as a mom, to say, this is the way we do this in this house. So I think that's tough.
I have one more question for you. You said something that's interesting. I was doing something a couple of years ago with these great ladies, and they had an initiative and a product that was around what they called the fourth trimester.
Okay.
Which was after women have given birth, the baby is here. A lot of the things that we do are for women while they are before they give birth and while they're in the process. But then after they give birth, we think, okay, baby healthy.
Yep.
Everything's great. being a mom, being a Black mom who obviously we understand the challenges that are surrounding Black maternal health,
Yeah.
that doesn't end once the baby is born.
No.
Talk a little bit about the experience of being a mother, a new mother in that 4th trimester, the challenges that some less resourced women might face, and what your experience with that was.
Yeah. So again, we had our daughter middle of COVID. And before, COVID came, and even in life, I just thought I would have this pregnancy and delivery that my whole family would be in the room. They'll be singing, they'll be passing the baby around. Kitchen. Like, people will be in the house cooking, cleaning, all of that. COVID happens. They can't come. It's just me and my husband in the room. We get home, and again, that element of protection where I'm like, you can't come in our house.
Right.
If you visit us, you gotta stay at a hotel for a little bit. My family's like, we ain't doing that. Like, we'll get some masks, but that's it. Well, you can't come. So what happens is the first time around, we're in COVID, all of these things are going on. My 4th trimester started with me having postpartum anxiety because I was just so anxious about everything. So not even the parent shit, everything else in the world. I'm like, damn, I work for this organization. I don't think I want this for myself anymore. And I don't want my daughter to see me in this space anymore. I want to go get after something else. So I'm having that. The world, what's going to happen? Like, how long are we going to be in COVID? You started seeing all of the messaging and images about when, in the 1920s when they were wearing masks for 2 years. So I'm like, damn, how long are we going to, like, all of this stuff is happening externally. Internally, I'm like, I don't know how to do this shit. Like, this is me and my husband's first child. We're like, she crying, we up all night, all of these things.
You needed that tribe of people.
So I needed those people to come. Then by the time that they were ready to come, they were anxious. So it started off with postpartum anxiety. And then I think I realized, like, I can remember the day I got out the shower, my husband had my daughter, and I'm in the bathroom, my hair is falling out. Like, I could just see like clumps of hair. I'm going through postpartum shedding. And he walked past the bathroom. He was like, you look good. And I was like, shut up. And I just slammed the door. And I'm in there like, don't come in here saying I look good. I'm upset. When I came out the bathroom, he was fine. He was like, you good? And I was like, I think I am having PPD, postpartum depression. And I got a therapist. So I got a therapist and I started having the conversation. I was very clear with, I wanted a woman who was Black, who was also married, that had a child. Because there are things that I want to talk about and I want you to understand what that dynamic looks like for me.
You gotta feel it.
And I wanted someone who's also like happily married. It's because if I bring up something my husband did, I don't need you telling me like, girl, wrap it up. Tell him you got to get him out of here. I need somebody to be like, girl, it's okay. You're going to get through it. So because I had at least my therapist through that time, we had our kids essentially 23 months later. And I recognized immediately when I had that postpartum depression. And that was tougher this time, I think, because I feel like I got double the hormones with the twins. And because there were 2, it was almost like some people were scared to help, because now there's basically a 2-year-old here or 18-month-old and twins and me. It was like people almost stayed away. So I remember going through those times of feeling like it was very mundane, like I was on a hamster wheel and I should be enjoying this time, but like I felt like sad. I felt miserable. I'm like, nobody's helping me. Nobody's doing the support. And you know that you are essentially qualified because you did it the first time. This just looks a little bit different. And so one thing that we did this time what helped is when we did our registry, my therapist said, you should do a postpartum doula fund. And we were like, we don't need no doula. We went through this already. We got this. She said, just do a postpartum doula fund. So people that didn't know what to get us, they all put into this postpartum doula fund. We found an organization in Durham that mainly supported like Black and brown moms. And they sent us a daytime doula and an overnight doula in that 4th trimester. So when I was tired, she came in. I was like, I don't got no groceries. You can't cook nothing. She said, baby, don't you worry about it. She got that cast iron skillet out. She made stuff from scratch. I would wake up from a nap, clothes folded, kitchen clean. We got food for a couple days. Overnight doula would come. What you need from me? You want a nurse? You want a pump? She would just bring me the babies. I would do it. She'd wrap them up, take them out. And so we had to say, what are the things that we have to do again different than the generations before us? You know, my mom was saying I was bougie for the longest time, that I had, you know, a doula and I had somebody in the house. But what do we have to do for us to set us up for success, to set the kids up for success?
I appreciate it. I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes because you know what's funny is definitely for that, but at the same time, like, we're experts, you know, together. This is gonna be our 7th kid in a month, but we've had the conversations of, you know, I'm gonna need you to do this, and this once the baby comes. I'm gonna need, you know, I'm gonna need my nap time. I'm gonna need my sleep time. And for me, I'm a very hands-on dad, but taking 7, including one of them being a newborn, and making sure that they don't run upstairs or too loud because mom needs to sleep, like, that's really work and pressure, and I look forward to it because I understand, like, it's funny, we were talking about this because we had already hit on this maybe like in the last month, and we've been talking about it more and more, like, hey, the baby's a month away, I'm gonna need this, and this, but that fun that you talked about, I'm definitely putting that in the registry.
What's interesting about that is, so if you live in North Carolina, you have a baby, you get a free lactation consultant that helps you through the process of feeding.
Fantastic.
And my lactation consultant, when I realized what was happening the first time around, she said, "How's your husband?" I'm like, "He good. He's fine. He's sleeping." Like, and she's like, "No, seriously, how is he?" And so she started educating me about men having postpartum depression in that 4th trimester too. And she's like, it looks a lot different. And so she started naming out things that he was doing. She's like, do you feel like he's at work more than he was before? Do you feel like he's in the house and he's fixing all of these things, or he has these ideas?
Nailing everything.
Yeah. And I'm like, damn, he is doing that. And she's like, men go into this mode of, I have to provide in a different way now. And there's a new baby here and my wife is going through this or whatever. And so he's dealing with his own emotion and his own capabilities of, like, if he's capable to do this thing now, that there's somebody else here. And I remember us having a conversation. At first he was like, I'm good. And then he started thinking, like, damn, I am doing some of this stuff. And we both had to, like, slow it down. And I think it was less about, like, what you need to give me, but, like, what do we need to give each other?
Together.
Because there's so much shit going on. Like, you know, how are we supporting each other in this journey?
It's important.
Yeah.
For those mothers who are on the fence in this climate, in this space, whether they should vote or not, what would be a message you would give them as a mother?
I think the first thing is you got to get down to the basics. You got to kind of start with your, like, pros list. What do you need for yourself? You know, make your list, check it twice, research your candidate, get past the headlines and figure out the work that they're actually doing, the policies they have in place. I think sometimes we vote because our families have voted or our communities have voted. I think when you look at that list and you look at the policies, sometimes you'll be surprised in where you align. And then I think it starts with voting at your local level first. I can't tell you how often, you know, people are so focused on the presidential race that they don't even know some of the things they're affected by are at the local level. And I think you start there, and then you also start having conversations with people who need similar things as you. I think that's how I've kind of been navigating how my voting process is. You know, if I'm really focused on, you know, education in this way, I'm really focused on workforce development, I'm really focused on whatever process it is, DEI, for example, what's happening locally? And I'm talking to those people, what do you think? And somebody's bringing up, oh, I saw this campaign or I saw this article. You have to have those conversations because people can bring you new information. So I think that's important as anybody in general, but especially as moms, is what do you need? Research, start local, and then go after everything else.
Love it.
Wow. Fantastic, robust conversation. For some people, this conversation might inspire them to start a family. For others, this conversation might have been the best possible birth control that you could ever get. But as long as we're making you think, we're happy.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. Always be engaged. Do your research.
That's right.
And get out there and vote and be active. Van Lathan, P68, Softening the Ground series. Until next time.